Hey guys, it's Sarah from Yugatech, and today we're checking out the new Galaxy Z Fold 6. And as you can see, it now has boxy edges. But that's not all. You get new camera island, new speakers, and a new bezel-less display for the main screen, as well as the cover screen. So, do you want to know more about this device? Be sure to continue watching. Alright, so here we have the new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6, and at first glance it looks pretty much the same as the Z Fold 5. But if we look closely, we'll notice that Samsung made a bunch of subtle redesigns when it comes to the design of the Galaxy Z Fold 6. The most obvious would be the color and the finish of the phone itself. Unlike last year, Samsung opted to ditch the glossy finish that the phone had, instead choosing a matte finish for the entire phone. It's a subtle change, but you do notice it especially when you hold it in your hands. Aside from the back panel and body, the edges also get the matte finish. No more glossy metallic finishes here on the Galaxy Z Fold 6. Samsung also added a subtle black line that runs around the edge of the phone when closed, so you can see it when the phone is closed. And according to the brand, this helps make the phone look a lot sleeker when closed to match the new matte finish. The speaker grills have also been redesigned to match the new aesthetic, going from vertical slits to one small horizontal slit. It's a very subtle touch, but it does look very nice in my opinion. Another change Samsung made is with the camera housing. Compared to before, which had 3 individual circles, the 3 camera sensors on the Z Fold 6 are now housed in a small vertical camera island. But perhaps the most subtle change of all that Samsung made to the design of the Galaxy Z Fold 6 are the edges of the phone itself. Unlike the more rounded corners we've come to know, they're now a lot more boxy. I personally prefer the boxier design since it feels a lot nicer to hold. Users will notice it especially when the phone is folded or closed. Although not as obvious, the Z Fold 6 is also lighter than before. Specifically, it now weighs 14 grams less at 239 grams, which is not that big of a difference unless you have the Z Fold 5 for comparison. Samsung also made subtle adjustments to the dimension of the phone, making it a lot thinner when folded. I personally like the changes Samsung made to the new Galaxy Z Fold 6, especially the boxier corners and matte finish, since it makes the phone less prone to scratch, especially the metallic areas of before. At the same time, it's easier to grip when you're using it without the case, although there are a lot of case options from Samsung to choose from. However, I'm sure some of you may have other opinions or even prefer the older glossy colors and finish of the Galaxy Z Fold 5. I mean, style is subjective after all. Let's move on to the displays, and the front cover screen on the Galaxy Z Fold 6 is slightly bigger than before. And slightly, I mean very slightly. It is now 0.1 mm larger, measuring a total of 6.3 inches. The increase is small, but at least it gives you more screen to use, especially if you don't want to be bothered unfolding the phone. Like before, the cover screen still uses a dynamic AMOLED panel and we still get 120Hz refresh rate. Open it up and you are greeted by a 7.6-inch main display. Like before, the main display uses a dynamic AMOLED panel, giving us some of the greatest color reproduction seen on a foldable smartphone. As we expected, the screen is bright and the colors are vivid and the blacks are very deep. And you also have very nice viewing angles. Not to mention, you also have a 120Hz refresh rate just like the cover display, giving users smooth animations whether you're watching videos or playing games on the screen. It's now brighter too with a maximum peak brightness of 2600 nits as compared to the 1750 nits peak brightness of the Z Fold 5. Of course, it still supports the S Pen just like before, which we'll talk more about later on. You still get a dual speaker setup, which sounds great. We didn't have the time to play different songs, but from our initial impressions, they are still loud and have a good soundstage. Under the hood, the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6 is powered by the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chipset. Unfortunately, we didn't have the opportunity to install games like Genshin, Wuthering Waves, or the new Zenless Zone Zero. But we do have very high expectations for this chipset as seen in other handsets we've reviewed. And from our initial impressions, the phone is very fast, so be sure to stay tuned for our future review. As for the camera and battery, they remain unchanged from before. Samsung didn't change the cameras on the Z Fold 6 since we still get the same trio as before, a 50MP main shooter, a 12MP ultra-wide, and a 10MP telephoto sensor. We also get a 4MP under-display camera, which we still think is one of the coolest in-display cameras on the market. While we did want to take sample photos and videos, at the time we recorded this video, we were advised not to show any samples just yet since we were using engineering units. So you'll have to wait for the review if you want to see any of those. What Samsung did showcase a lot about the new Z Fold 6 is the UI. It still runs on Android 14, but now runs on One UI 6.1.1, which gives us access to Galaxy AI features, and meaning a lot more AI features. Like the features shown in the S24 series, we have Google Circle to search and such, but what we really found useful was live translation. Utilizing the cover screen, it can show what we said already translated towards the person we're talking to. This allows the person to not only hear, but they also can read what we said. And if they want to talk to you, they simply need to respond in their own language, and the English translation will come out on the main screen facing the Z Fold6 user. I find this feature very useful, especially when you're going to be traveling abroad and need some hassle-free translation, which in practice could be a lot more convenient compared to using Google Translate. With the new translation feature, everything just feels a lot more natural. The only downside is that users will need to be connected to the internet for this to work, along with downloading the necessary language pack beforehand. And if you're into drawing, you have a big phone, and you want to sketch out, you can turn it from what you have in your head to something into reality. Simply make a doodle and it can render stuff automatically for you. It's great if you aren't the most artistically inclined, or you're just bad at drawing like me. There are a lot more to find out about the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold6, but for that, you'll have to wait for our full review. So, subtle design changes, subtle upgrades. What else can you expect from the Galaxy Z Fold6? Well, that's all the time we have right now, but be sure to stay tuned for our full review, which will be coming out soon. And of course, if you enjoyed this video or found it informative, do drop a like and subscribe to our channel to watch more. And of course, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. And of course, visit yugatech.com to stay updated with the latest tech news and reviews. Once again, this has been Jose, and I'll catch you guys next time with the Z Fold6 full review.